there's some really, really good thinking about it. Front cover, I thought it was good. I like your fonts. I certainly like your main font, which I think is, which is the main one? Is it Prestige, the main one?
Phosphate for the main title.
Oh, Phosphate, yeah, that one. It's got that sort of 1920s Art Deco type feel about it, which is very jazz heavy. And I thought that choice was really good. I like the secondary font as well. I think it works well. I know it's a mock-up, but when you come to it, make sure you've got, for me, background colours don't work as well. Just make sure that picture is blitzed across the whole of the front cover. But the layout is fine, it tells you what it is. Be careful with your language about 100% guaranteeing anything in this world. And that's a life lesson, not just a magazine lesson.
Yeah.
But just be wary around that language. I think you can say, like Carlsberg, probably, or something like that, 100%, that's an optimism. So just have a little think about your copy content on that. But as I said, overall, I think the cover there's an evocation of jazz in that. It's not, I can just imagine it with a nice strong image. A bit like that double-page spread you had earlier on the actual magazine where it had the whole curtain going across. That was good. Your DPS, again, I like a lot. The one thing I'm not sold on is the choice of that body text. And there are two reasons why. One, it's not sans serif, so it's got a little bit of curl on it, which always makes it a little bit difficult to pick up. But also, it's a wide kerned font. So you've got quite a bit of space between each letter. And therefore, you lose space when you're trying to get your content in. As I said, I think those first two work brilliantly together. You've got this really sort of angled, sharp edge homage to Art Deco, and then the modern day, much more fluid, handwritten, which is really in at the moment, sense that that evokes the music. I can almost see jazz in the choice of that font itself, musical notes. I think that's really strong. But I'm not sure about that body copy, the text copy. I think maybe have a look at that. The other thing on that DPS as well, again, same thing again. If you go where you did a really good job putting the picture of Mike Hind in when he was talking, you'll see on that he's got there's the curtains all the way across. So when you do your DPS, again, yeah, that's it, that's the one. Listen, it's a mock-up, I know it, but make sure you get that sense of image across the back, because that blue is quite strong and it might power over the copy content on that one. So have a little think about that. But I actually like the style of the layout. And as I said, those two other fonts work really, really well. I'm going to say to you what I've said to everybody. On your resources slide, you've got everything you possibly, or slides, you've got everything you possibly need. Bear in mind that produces your content, but you've then got to get content to channel. So do I need an advertising executive to sell? Because you're going to have to get advertising to get the numbers right. Do I need that? Who does the production? How do I take what I produced on my Mac into content leads? So just have a think about that, how you do that. Pagination, sorry, just that memory, was it fortnightly or monthly?
Monthly. Monthly,
fine. 100 pages, two things. If you're going to go into print, you need to go into divisibles of 4, because the pages need to be printed and folded in 4s and then inset when they're bound. So always do that. If you can find 100 pages of content for local jazz in North London, you're doing well. So I would have a think about your pagination. If you can do 64 pages and then have 46 pages of advertising, brilliant. But have a little think about what your magazine is going to make up. I've got a front cover, a front back cover, inside covers 4 pages, right? Do I have 4 pages of intro? Do I have 20 pages of reviews? Do I have 10 pages, or 12 pages, of it? Try and break down what you think your pagination, and this is to everybody, this isn't just your presentation. Think about what your content how it will practically be, and how you can manage the production of that content in a month, because that's a lot of content. Well, there's a phrase that was used on me once, which is you have to have, what was the phrase? Oh yes, you have to measure your scale of ambition with your capacity to achieve. And that's just a fad phrase. Sometimes we get carried away with what we want to do, but actually, if we just stop and look and say, actually, I think I could do 64 pages of banging content, and that will be enough for me to be able to sell my magazine. And it will certainly be better if you to get repeat orders as well. Archive was really good. I like your website because it just does what it says on the tin. It tells you to order stuff. I think that's brilliant. There's nothing WYSIWYG. It just is. I thought that was really, really good and fixed. Your advertising. Have a think about radio. You know, that's where your prime demographic is listening. Have a think about radio. It's one of the most underused advertising mediums, I think, going. I think that would be really worth thinking about on that. And then also some poster advertising in local venues. So, I mean, obviously there's the major venues, but I had a very quick look. There we go, Hampstead Jazz Club, there's Vortex, Play On Events, all in and around North London. How about going out to that market where those connoisseurs are? Because as you said, it's a niche market. So it's difficult to go and find them in the mainstream. And it might get lost in the noise of rap and rock and everything else. So how can you be more targeted with that distribution? And I think in clubs, places where people congregate, as well as maybe local bookstores and places like that, where does that demographic go? That would really help with your distribution as well. Loved your idea of interviewing before and after. I think that's really insightful. What makes the song? How do I write it? Where did the music come to me? And then what happens to that through the process of recording it? I thought it was a brilliant idea. That was really interesting. As well as getting into looking into the industry as a whole. Again, be careful with your language around that. Don't upset. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Allude to their dirty tricks, but do it nicely, because otherwise they'll come after you. And I don't think your USP is a poster. I think the poster's nice. I think your USP is what you've got, your magazine. You're a young man in a demographic that, as you've already pointed out, tends to be the older demographic, and you've got real passion for the music. And I think that's your USP. I think you are your USP. And it sounds a bit odd about the magazine, but you going out to gigs and selling them in jazz clubs and getting to know people, don't underestimate what your passion that you've obviously got for this music, which does. It's really powerful. The one thing I would have liked to have seen is do a bit more research into your competitor titles. Actually identify them. Again, I think you've probably got quite a unique little slot, but I wonder if people are writing magazines for local areas or not. I doubt it, because as I said, it sounds quite unique. But just do a little bit more research on what you're coming up against. I think the price point's about right. Overall, I mean, listen, good job. Really good job. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And I do like a bit of jazz. So, maybe you could do something with Ronnie Scott's as well. Those kind of competition things, taking you out to the mainstream and connecting. And also the other thing, sorry, I was getting ideas of content. So this is good because it's made me think about what content might be. What is jazz like? What's Latin jazz like? What's European jazz like? What's jazz like in China? I've got no idea. You're bringing those kind of insights in. That helps you think about maybe you've got a specialist feature you can put in to build up that copy. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah.
Have I missed anything? Because you normally find something I've missed brilliantly.
Jack, do you mind going back to your cover for a second?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that I think you need to mention North London somewhere on there, because at the moment it's not clear that it's North London based. So I would be looking at that as maybe a national jazz magazine, and then be confused when I opened it.
Yeah.
So maybe some more content on the front that is specific to North London as well, to really have that point home. And the only other thing was with the poster, I just think because you're looking at an older audience, you might want something a little bit more refined. So you could just call it an art print or art postcards or something like that, so that people give more of a sense that people might frame it and put it on their wall. Because I think if you're 65 plus or in your 50s, you're probably not going to put a poster up on your wall in that same way.
Yes, if you're in your 50s, your wife doesn't let you put posters of top and what are on the wall, I'm afraid.
Because of the blue tack marks. It's something you learn when you're older, it's fine. So, yeah. But otherwise,
it's a pretty good point. It has to be framed. It's not going anywhere unless it's framed.
Yeah. So just small things, but mainly the North London is something you really need to sell with this, just because that's the brief. But otherwise, great.
Right.
Do you have anything for that?
Just a really little nitpicky thing,
Yeah.
but just not your content in magazine, which is great, I loved it. Just in your presentation, I would have, when you were showing the fonts you were going to use, I would have used that font
Yeah.
just to demonstrate straight away what the font was. But
They-
that's really nitpicky.
They were on the PowerPoint. When I
okay,
was making
changed.
it, they just didn't show up here.
Okay, so you had thought of it. That's
Oh, they're probably not installed. So next time, just screenshot them and put them in to
Yeah.
JPEG or Bear or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Good work, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.